Here's a tour of our 2014 Tiffin Phaeton. Hi, I'm Jim from RV4x40.com.
And I'm Chris. Welcome to our home.
Yes, we have been in this motorhome since November of last year, and people have asked about doing a tour. We, for lots of reasons, haven't been able to get that pulled together, but this week that's what we're going to do. Part of it is with COVID-19, and we're in the middle of all that, and Williamson County, where we are, is in a fairly well locked down state, as a lot of places are. So we thought we'd take today and do a little quick tour of the new home and show you what it's all about, some things we like, and a couple of things that I think could be improved by Tiffin, but those are fairly minor overall.
We are definitely enjoying our new to us home. It has a lot of features that are particularly fun.
For those who don't know, we spent a lot of 2019 dealing with a slide issue on our Monaco, the previous coach we had. And we were in several major repair shops, including one in Elkhart, which is an individual who worked for Monaco for over 20 years. He was in the engineering department on new model development and has a very thorough knowledge of the product. And he spent over half a day looking at the slide, running it in and out, trying to figure the problem out. His conclusion was that something inside of the floor assembly had fractured or welded, broken, or something like that, which meant it was going to be nearly impossible to fix. And he actually referred us to go to the factory and see what they would say. We eventually got there. It took several months to get in to see them, and basically they said they didn't know what was going on. And as the year progressed, the problems with the slide were getting worse. It was making terrible noises. It was starting to have trouble going in and out. And so we were looking at a possible catastrophic failure of that slide and wanted to really get out of that coach before that happened. And we disclosed that when we traded this one in to the people who were buying it, and so they were aware of it. It wasn't a secret. And so we didn't really want to spend the money to upgrade. We had invested a lot of time and energy into making that particular coach our home. And I didn't realize, in fact, how much time I had spent installing some ham radio gear and some of our computer equipment and getting it tucked into nooks and crannies and wired and some things like that. And that's one of the things we've been struggling with, and still don't have everything installed the way it was in the other motorhome. But we're progressing on. We like this coach. It's a very nice one. It was well maintained, well kept on the inside, and it's been good for us.
Since it is 7 years newer than our previous coach, we're finding it has a lot of advantages, lighting-wise, mood lighting-wise even. And the slides are bigger, so we feel like we have a roomier main part of our home.
That's very true. The 3 of the 4 slides are definitely larger, it becomes interesting because one of the things that does is it narrows the space around the wet bay. The slides are much closer to it, so I bumped my head a couple of times because I'm not still used to where those slides are and trying to hook up water hoses or do drains or that kind of thing. So that became kind of an interesting downside, although we would not trade the size off for anything. It's a welcome addition to what we had before. So I'm going to let Chris do some walkthrough of the interior, and she can talk about the things that she likes and perhaps doesn't like as well. But she can give you an idea of what the interior is like, and I'll be back to talk about the outside in a bit.
As we've mentioned before, one of the things we're enjoying is the additional space. And we do often camp with our daughter and her husband and 3 children. And so we are enjoying the living area, the 2 chairs, of course, that turn around. And we have 2 sofas. This RV also has 2 sofas, which we did not have in the other one. So there's that extra seating. And both of them make into a bed, the one into a jackknife and the other into an air mattress bed. Our grandson has slept on both of them and tells us that the air mattress is definitely the better of the 2. One of the things we looked for in a new RV, or new to us, was the bench seating. We had the table with 2 chairs that we were using all the time in the other one, and then 2 chairs that were extremely heavy that stored under the bed, and we brought out when our family was visiting. We decided we liked the bench idea. It's softer for one thing, and you can kind of lean back in it if it's just Jim and I. And our 3 grandchildren do fit there, so that works well for us. This coach actually has 4 TVs. We didn't know that we'd ever use the 2 in this room. Turns out we do, because we're sometimes having dinner and might have a TV show on or the news. Depending on which side we're sitting on, we can watch the TV, get sound out of one of them, and each view what's going on the TV. The refrigerator was in the original floor plan. It's got the water and ice in the door, which we're enjoying. Did not have that before. But otherwise, the one we had added to the other one, to our old RV, we had to tie shut as we traveled. So that's one step we don't have to do with that. Tiffin took care of that for us by adding locks to this particular refrigerator as we're going down the road. So we just shut the door and go. This kitchen seems roomier to me, and part of it, I think, is the fact that the cover over the stove is it's built in, so it's there all the time, whereas I did leave the other covers off a lot of the time. Also, the sink area, for the most part, I just use one side of the sink since it's just Jim and I and not many dishes. And so I've got a lot of counter space here to work with, which is pretty nice. Cupboard space is always a learning curve when we move from one RV to another, as others would know. We're still occasionally looking for things in where we might have had them in the other RV. This one has a pull-out as we did in the other RV, but because it has a little less of the permanent fixture look, we use it when we need the additional counter space. So it really ends up giving us more room in the walk area when we have it closed, but it's there when we need it for counter space. The other thing this one has that we're happy with is the trash container is in the built-in area. The other one, of course, we had to find cupboard space for, so this one works really well. Unlike our other RV, this one has a bath and a half. Company can use this bathroom. Of course, we use it as well. In our bedroom, someone had added a sleep number bed so that we have had the new experience to use that. It is, however, larger. It's a full-size king rather than an RV king, so it's a very tight fit. It can be challenging making the bed at times. but we are enjoying it. We put every nook and cranny to use, so all the cupboard space is filled with things that we use on a regular basis. And the bed, of course, lifts up, and there is additional storage under there for things we don't use quite as often. One of the things that we have not had before is a clothes hamper, which has come in handy. Not quite as much storage space in this bedroom as we had in our last one. I think they opted for a larger TV in this design, whereas the previous year had a little more storage, which we might have preferred the storage because we don't use the bedroom TV very often, but it is good to have it here. Jim had added some additional hooks that help us with our nightwear, and so we don't have to have drawer space for that. This is our bath, our full bath. It's in the back of the RV, and it has a fair amount of cupboard space, which is really nice to have in this area. Our closet space might be a little bit less than we were used to, but we've figured out ways to work around it, and it's working fine. We had a washer dryer combination in our other RV, and we're really enjoying the individual washer and dryer. We were thankful to have the other one. It was a smaller, we could do smaller loads only. This one can handle really a pretty good sized load, and the dryer as well. The dryer clothes come out great. We were kind of used to them being pretty wrinkled still when they came out of the dryer. That was a combination, but this one does a really good job. So it's kind of a step up for us, and we're enjoying that as well. Pretty much just the typical RV shower. One of the things that's different for us is this type of towel rack where you can put several towels in a fairly condensed area. We kind of separate them as they're drying and push them in as we need to.
This is the working part of the outside of our RV. In addition to these two storage doors here, there's mating doors on the other side. These trays will go out on either side, which makes it convenient. And just like the other coach, there's a lot of boxes that we use, as well as things like our grill. But the boxes help arrange things in there. They're Sterilite storage bins. Helps keep them organized, and so you can find things without having to dig through a whole pile of stuff. And there are other openings, other cavities around the coach that you can get and put things into. Some of them have equipment in it that runs the coach, but some of them are available for putting your own things into. So it works well. There's actually more storage space underneath than there was on the other coach. Interestingly enough, with the extra space we've got both inside and outside, it's basically the same length. They were both 40-foot motorhomes. The previous one was lighter when it was empty, but because the axles were slightly lower in rating, it actually had less carrying capacity, which is the difference between the empty weight and then the loaded weight, but less carrying capacity than this one does. In fact, with the other coach, we were often right at the limit on the rear axle. I had to watch that very carefully. We had a little bit of room on the front axle, but not a lot. This one, fully loaded with everything we had before, there is more excess carrying capacity on both the front and rear axle, so we're not nearly as close to the maximum load as we were before. So she handles well, we love it, and this is what it is like on the outside, where I have to do my thing with storage. I like the Class A because I think the storage overall is really what we need, being full-time without a place to go back to on a regular basis, and pretty much have to carry everything I want in the way of tools and accessories with us as we travel down the road. One of my pet peeves about motorhomes and RVs in general, and a lot of products have this issue dealing with them, and that is that fundamentally the people doing the design work never actually use the product or don't use it enough to be familiar with it. I don't want to complain too much about Tiffin because a lot of what they did in this motorhome they got right. This is our second Tiffin. Our previous one was a gas-driven on a Ford chassis. And so we're very happy with it, very happy with their customer service, very happy with the overall quality. However, there is what I consider to be a major flaw in their instrument cluster steering wheel design. This isn't exactly from the driver's seat, but this is what you see is a driver going down the road. The steering wheel basically blocks off the bottom section of the dashboard. It's not particularly critical. You can see the red warning light right in the middle. If something goes wrong, that will come on and tell you there's a warning. However, there are a number of indicator lights in what Freightliner, who makes the chassis, calls the light bar, and that is completely hidden by the steering wheel. I'm a relatively tall individual, and even with the seat all the way up in a driving position, I cannot see the light bar. And it has the odometer and some other instruments like that, but critically it also has things like the high beam indicator, a cruise indicator if you have cruise control on, and some other things, plus a lot of the warning lights that might come on are down in that area. And with this particular view, you can't see it. This is going to get noisy because the warning buzzers will go off, but I'm going to turn the ignition key on. That'll light up all the light bar instrumentation as a light check. And then once that times out, it'll just show you a couple of the warning lights that start before you crank the engine. And the beeper on these things is really loud. And you saw it flash by, but there's what it looks like now. The speed control is on, the check engine light is on because there's no oil pressure. This particular coach has a pre-trip checklist that shows up. You can scroll through that if you want to use it. But that's what happens, and none of that is visible in the normal driving position. Turn that off, but that's one of my major complaints, and probably about the only major complaint we have about the coach. Everything generally works well, but that feature is one that was really not a well thought out design. That instrument cluster ought to be probably 6 inches higher, which I know would change their line of their nice pretty dashboard, but if you want to let the driver have access to this feature of the chassis, it needed to be done.
Thanks for visiting with us in our home today. It's been a pleasure to have you join us.
We hope you enjoyed the video, perhaps learned a few things about our new to us 2014 Tiffin 40 QBH motorhome. If you like the video, we'd appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, it would help us out if you would do that. Click on the subscribe button down below, and the bell icon will get you notified when we post a new video. In the meantime, as we travel around the country, we hope we'll see you on the highways and byways of America.